We saw an example of setting the passwords on the router. Let's just take a look at the switch just to have an idea of what that configuration would look like for setting up our initial switch security password setups. So we did our router setup for security for our initial configuration for in-band. If you remember, in-band was using TCP/IP. So we set that security up on our VTY lines. I did those backwards, hold on. VTY lines. And our out of band was our console line. And we also set the enable password for privileged executive. So let's just take a look at the switch configuration and see how it's similar to our router. So I'll go down here to switch 1. Here's my switch 1 interface. So from switch 1, if I wanted to set the enable password, again, if I exit out of here, notice it goes right back to press return to get started. I press return, no password at all. This would be my console password because I'm sitting at the CLI or the command line interface. I want to set that password too. Enable is not set. Notice I went right straight to scratch. So I want to set my enable password too for management. So global configure from the terminal. I want to set the enable password. Do I want to set the enable? Do I want to set the secret? Let's do the secret so we don't have to do it twice. The enable password, if we're going to set a secret, it doesn't make too much difference anyway. My enable secret will be Cisco. So that is now my enable password. From here, I would want to go to line configuration mode for my console. So that would be line console 0. I will set the password to be console. Nope. Now that I've done this, I really want, oh no, password, the console password. So what if I didn't want it to be console? What if I did that in error and I wanted it to be something different? Maybe I wanted my console password to be tractor. Do I have to erase it first? I don't. I can only have one console password. So I can go in here and actually say password tractor, and that will overwrite it. Remember that we can use the do command to go back and show information. So if I do show run here, if I go all the way down to my console, you can see that the password was actually overwritten as tractor, which I don't want it to be tractor. I want it to be console, so I'm consistent. So I'll go back and do password console, and that's fine. I want to set my VTY lines as well. And if you look at the screen right now, you see I have two different setups for line VTY. I have line VTY 04, and that's what we saw on the router with the word login, which requires me to log in when there's no password set, so I can't. There's also line VTY 515. That's because switches by default, not all switches, but most switches have 16 telnet lines by default. But because they use the old router iOS, I've got the 04 first, then I've got the 515 afterwards, which gives me my total of 16 lines. Depending on which switch you're in, some of the newer switches actually just do 015, and that's perfectly fine as well. It was just broken up here because of the legacy operating system that they were configuring it in. How do I get down to my VTY lines to configure? And we'll just do 0 through 4 for now. So I'll do line VTY 04. That's the first 5 telnet lines. Remember, it's ordinal, so 0 through 4 is actually 5 telnet lines. And we're going to set the password to telnet. I want to make sure I have to log in. It's already there, but it doesn't do you any harm to make sure that you type it, so it's always there for you, and that sets that password as well. So again, that's exactly what we did before. If I go all the way out, hit press return to get started, I'm going to have to put my, what did I skip? What did I miss? Anybody watching, following along? My enable password was Cisco. If I do a show run, I go all the way down to console. I never type the word login. So even though I set a password on that line, without the word login, it doesn't stop and ask me. So I have to make sure that I type the word login there as well under my console line to have the switch ask me. And again, the same thing for a router. I'll go back to global config. I will go to my line VTY line console 0. I will say login. That adds the word login there to me now. So now if I go all the way out and I hit press return to get started, now it's going to ask me for a password. My password was console enable. My enable password was Cisco. C-I-S-C-O. I'm now into my switch and I'm configured. Show run shows me that I have my secret password. This is Cisco with the MD5 hash. If I go to the bottom, I have my console password, and I have my telnet password. Note quickly here that I did not save this. If I do a show start, which is my startup configuration, it doesn't even have a startup configuration. This machine has never been saved. So if this switch rebooted right now, it would have no configuration at all. Make sure you do a copy, run, start to save that configuration. At that point, I can show start, and I can see my enable secret, my console password, and my telnet password. Switches, routers, very similar.